Good evening, comrades, and welcome to my second audiobook, Zombie Panic Part 2. Hopefully you guys have listened to the first one, no worries if you haven't. And this is, however, a sequel to the first one, so it might be a good idea to give it a listen before we start. This time I've tried to enhance the quality a little bit of the audiobook, put a bit of background music in the beginning of the parts so it's nicer for you guys. I even hired a few voice actors for this one, so should be pretty cool. Anyway, sit back, drink your cup of tea or whatever, and just listen to my lovely voice for a little while. When the war first started, the zombies overran everything in sheer numbers. The military forces were not quick enough to adapt or respond. The remaining humans hid out in small groups. They scavenged what they could to survive. The zombies weren't very smart in the beginning. They were filled with so much rage, they could think of nothing but the need to kill and eat humans. They never set traps, never coordinated their efforts, just blindly charged at any human they saw. As time went on, their numbers started to fall. The humans adapted and started wiping them out. They found more efficient ways to deal with the zombies. They used spears and bows when they ran out of bullets, herded groups of them into traps where they used fire or explosions to take out hordes. Many of the zombies starved when they were unable to find food for long enough. The North people dealt with the zombies long ago. Several small groups were able to band together and organize quicker than in most places. There hasn't been much talk of zombies up north for a long time now. Now, the North people fight each other. Two powerful factions fight over important resources. Society today does not have the means to sustain the current population. The humans have to kill each other off to survive. The zombie threat has been all but forgotten by these groups. First, we have the allied communities, a collection of small groups of survivors. At first, they were hostile towards each other. But as they killed off more zombies and the surrounding areas became safer as a result, the communities started to work together. They restored key buildings like farms and lumber mills. They started to build a new society. Meanwhile, another group further north emerged, the Empire, run by the so-called Queen Karen. Apparently, it's a monarch, but some might call it a dictatorship. This group is large in numbers and very powerful. When news came down that they were raiding settlements to the north, the allied communities banded their resources together and formed a front line to protect their homes. Now, it seems they are locked in a bitter war, where one side must annihilate the other, or both will run out of food and crumble from within. For many years, John has been fighting his own war, against the zombies. He was so close to finishing them for good. There were probably just a few dozen of them left. But then they destroyed John's home and killed everyone that he was trying to protect. Now there are several hundred of them. They're still out there, and they are very dangerous. However, John finds himself now dragged into a different war. One where he fights his own people, humans. He wasn't given much choice into being conscripted into the allied communities. They escaped their old home in a jeep, along with Victoria and Jessica. Jessica was wounded. If he didn't go to the allied communities for help, she would have surely died from her wounds. After seeing his leadership abilities, they quickly promoted him to Outpost Commander. John is now stationed at Outpost Foxtrot, on the front lines. "Commander!" calls the radio up. John finds himself startled and a little irritated by the sudden intrusion. "What is it?" John replies, trying to hide his frustration. "Allied Command's just called. They said that enemy movement has been spotted northeast of our position, and that we are to be on alert." John sighs. He may have to kill his fellow humans again today. "Alright, go to yellow alert. Make sure all our fighters are ready for combat." "Yes, sir," replies the radio op. He leaves the room to relay John's orders to the rest of the outpost. John takes a moment to look around his office. He has his own room at this outpost, a small cabin. He's sitting at his desk, where he has a map of the local area, giving an overview of Allied outposts and bases, also of known enemy locations. John stands up. There are a few barrels and filing cabinets around his room. To his left, his cot. Some of his gear is there. His boots, some clothes. He keeps his pistol under the pillow. Behind him is his weapon rack, with a scoped hunting rifle, hung proudly. John walks to his cot, and takes a seat so he can put his shoes on and get ready for combat. The Empire has sent many small attacks towards the frontline outposts lately. Despite taking many casualties, they don't seem to stop coming. How many people would have to die before we can start to get along, John wonders. After tying the laces on his combat boots, he slides his hand under his pillow and pulls out his pistol. A Glock 18. It's just as dangerous as the Glock 17, but its design is bulkier. John prefers it that way. He holsters his sidearm and moves to grab his rifle from the weapon rack. John used to favor the M4 assault rifle, but now that he is fighting humans that can shoot back, he prefers to have the option to fight from a greater distance. John cocks his rifle and heads for the door. He steps outside. His cabin is at the top of a small staircase. It's getting quite raw and chilly these days. It must be the autumn time of year. The brown leaves have been falling to the ground. John looks around at Outpost Foxtrot. Before the apocalypse, this place was a small construction site. John's cabin now would have been used as a small office before. Around the perimeter, the Allies' communities have built a wooden wall, with a walkway so people can walk along the wall and look out for enemies. He sees his men, climbing ladders and wooden steps, getting into their firing positions. If the Empire wants this place badly, we're not going to make it easy for them. John stands at the top of the staircase, which leads up to his office.
"Hey, Commander."
Sam stands at the bottom of the stairs, calling out to John. She is one of his best fighters in the outpost, and a friend too. She is the only person he feels he can trust from the AC.
"The men are all geared up and are taking up positions along the wall. You think they are going to make another run at us, Commander?"
"We need to be ready for anything, Sam. Stay sharp," John replies. The outpost is not large. There are only a dozen men stationed here, but its position here makes it a challenge for enemy forces to move past without being gunned down. In the center of the outpost is a watchtower, from which John can see far out for 360 degrees. This way, he can snipe enemies and send out orders to his men at the same time. John reaches the top of the tower with his rifle and scans the area with his scope. Between us and the Empire's forces lies a large area of woodlands. Lots of trees and wildlife. Not much line of sight. Neither side has been able to break through the woodlands. Each time we go in there, we run into guerrilla-style ambushes from the Queen Karen's men, also known as Karenites. The fighting often happens at very close quarters. These days, we mostly wait for them to emerge from the woodlands and just kill them on their way out. That way, at least, they will lose more people than we do. and maybe then we can start to win this war. Further into the tree line, we have placed an alarm system, a series of small wires connected to different bells. If the enemy trips these wires, a bell will sound to indicate to us where the enemies are. As John scans the tree line with his rifle, one of these bells starts to ring. Instantly, John's body starts to fill with adrenaline. He knows that they are here for sure now. It's time for combat. He swings his rifle around and aims in the direction of the bell. It's hard to make out any patterns in the woods. There are lots of bushes for the enemies to hide in. He spots some movement through his scope. A man has got entangled in the wire and keeps setting off the bell. They're trying to untangle themselves. The man is quite bulked up. He's wearing a paintballing mask so we can't see his face. He has padded gloves and a few layers of clothing where he can carry his gear. Another man emerges from the bushes to help his comrade. He pulls out a small knife so he can cut the man loose. John aims his rifle at the tangled man's head, and then aims a few inches lower. Bang! John puts a bullet through the man's throat, and he falls to the ground, out of sight into the bushes. Instantly, the tree line is filled with movement, as the Carolites emerge from the trees and bushes, and move into firing positions to open up on Outpost Foxtrot. John's men return fire. He ducks down as bullets smash into his tower. The top of the tower and many parts of the outpost walls have been reinforced with metal sheets to stop bullets from penetrating through the wooden walls. John hears bullets pinging off the tower and also smashing into the wooden structures as well. John darts up and swings his rifle into position to take another shot. This is quite a large force attacking the outpost. At least a couple dozen men. They are moving forward quite quickly, many of them charging forward, even under fire. John tracks his target through his rifle. The man is running to the left, moving closer to the base. John fires a bullet through the man's chest, and he falls to the ground. More suppressive fire hits the tower. John ducks down again and cocks his rifle. They're moving in fast. We better kill them all quickly or they'll overrun us. He pops up to line up his third shot. He sights a man through his scope. He's crouched and laying down suppressive fire against the defenders with an AK. As John starts to line up his shots, he sees the man he shot before approaching from behind the guy. Looks like he bled and turned already. The zombie tackles his target to the ground as John starts to scan for someone else to shoot. A bullet whips past John, taking off part of his ear. He falls to the ground in shock. He's been hit.